Hello, everyone. Good to see all of you beautiful, beautiful people out there. Well, we really can't see you, but
This Corona season, we're not going to see you either way with those masks on.
but anyway,
I love to see your beautiful eyes, and that's about it. Fucking
people even have hats on and stuff.
bro,
Godly.
put on a hoodie, put on a mask. You're full Saudi Arabia vibe. Just full on.
All right, that aside, we want to welcome you guys to another episode of the 4099 MMA show, and we have
Tentatively,
yeah, we have a new name on the board. And do you want to introduce that?
All right, y'all. Let's get a little professional here. All right, so this is how it's going to go. We're going to go, welcome to another episode of Knockout News. That's the tentative name, though.
Yeah. Knockout News is what we came up with so far. So
literally a couple seconds ago.
So I think that's what we're going to be going with. So we can officially say welcome to Knockout News. And this episode, we want to kind of talk about the upcoming huge upcoming UFC 251
Fight Island. First card on Fight Island, boys.
Yep.
And girls. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be beautiful. But we've got a couple things that we want to talk about first.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, this is kind of starting the podcast off on a very solemn note. Abdulmanap
Nurmagomedov,
Khabib's father has
unfortunately passed away.
Yeah, that's right. He unfortunately passed away because of complications with due to coronavirus, and
I think it was heart conditions, and then stacked on with coronavirus. Unfortunately, passed away. But yeah, I mean, rest in peace to a legend. The guy. I mean, you can see everything that he was through his son, right? You can see Khabib Nurmagomedov, arguably the best fighter of all time. You can definitely call him the GOAT, and over what he's going to do in his career and has already accomplished, and the dominance that he has put in, he's arguably the GOAT. And through that, and through his son, you can see the accomplishments of Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov. Trained him since he was a kid, and Khabib never says anything bad about him, and he's always nothing but respect.
And on top of that, I was watching a documentary that RT News was doing on him, or did on him, and released kind of as a kind of like a memorial kind of piece, and the way that they did a wonderful job on kind of depicting what kind of man he was, and he was just so loved in his city and his country. Yep. And not only did he help Khabib, but he helped all of the kids in the city, and any kid that he can kind of touch, he touched in a very positive way. And you have essentially a whole generation of youngsters that are super passionate about MMA, super passionate about combat sports. And that is just, he had a huge impact on everyone that he was around, so rest in peace, and inshallah, as they say. And
I mean, yeah, rest in peace to a legend. Yeah. He's one of the best coaches to ever do it. He made such a huge impact, not only on his son, but for his country, for his people. And I remember there's a quote, I can't say it exactly, but he was a real man. He said that he wasn't afraid of death. He always wanted to pass on more of his knowledge to his people. He was an empathetic person. He always cared about, or at least what's been told, he always cares about everybody else first. And of course, he had massive respect for his family, and he did such great things for his country. Once again, rest in peace to a legend. One of the best to ever do it.
Yeah, and on that note, we kind of wanted to really focus on this up and coming card, right?
Yeah.
So let's just kind of rewind and make sure everyone is very well aware of who all is on the card.
Yeah,
I know we talked about it a little bit on the previous episode, and when I say a little, I mean a lot.
Yeah, to transition from one legend to another legendary moment, we're going to transition over to this Fight Island card.
Yeah, Saturday, July 11th.
starting at 6 prelims, and it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy.
I mean, you have the bout of the welterweight division for really the belt. You have the champion Kamaru Usman facing off against Jorge
Street
Masvidal.
Jesus himself.
Yeah, man.
You got the Nigerian nightmare Kamaru Usman versus Gamebred Street Jesus Jorge Masvidal.
I couldn't have done a better intro, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So that should be. I mean, God, that just the history. First of all, the history behind this kind of these two fighters is pretty long standing and solidified in not only trash talk but genuine dislike for one another, and it'll be really, really cool to see what both of these guys bring to the table.
Yeah,
I mean, Jorge, he kind of took the fight a little bit later,
6 days now.
so it's something that everyone's talking about is Jorge going to have the cardio and the is he going to be ready enough to compete? Because Kamaru, he's a
Kamaru's a cardio maniac,
yeah,
right?
he's a machine.
So like what Kamaru's really known for is his wrestling and his cardio. So like back with his fight with Kobe Covington, they pretty much canceled each other out because both of them were cardio maniacs. They had a bunch of pressure and they were just wrestling machines.
That was an
amazing fight. And that's what Kamaru Usman's known for. Jorge Masvidal, he's got good cardio, don't get me wrong. What's really great about Jorge Masvidal is this resurgence that he's had from Gamebred, which he's still great Gamebred, to Street Jesus, right, to baptizing folks, right. That's a crazy resurgence. And what something that he said in an interview was he used to be really worried about his cardio. He always had to like measure out rounds, being like, okay, I can't spend too much energy, I can't go all out, so let me worry about my cardio. But now what we've seen is he's just been fucking murking people, right? He's just been putting lights out. Once again, baptizing people, right? He's been blessing them.
The Darren Till fight is a perfect example of that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That, and I mean, what is he on a? He's on a huge
he's on a
win
4
streak.
Fight.
Yeah,
Darren Till. I think Darren Till, Ben Askren, Nate Diaz. He's on a 3-fight win streak, I think, right now.
And I mean, holy crap! Like in the first, that was the fastest knockout, right?
4 seconds.
Yeah,
4 or 5
that
seconds.
That was like some like some game,
some ESPN knockout.
Gaming show kind of thing,
Pretty much, dude. You could see
Cheat
that
code.
you can see that like UFC 3, some shit like that. By the way, UFC's 4 is coming out.
Oh man.
But listen, we've got a bunch of great fighters, right? We got Amanda Ribas versus Paige Van Zandt in the women's flyweight division. That's going to be a good fight.
Yep.
We got these legendary fights, right? We got the women's strawweight division. We've got Jessica Andrade versus Thug Rose Namajunas, right? Then we've got in the bantamweight division, once again, Piotr Jan. He can say it perfectly, versus Jose Aldo. Title fight. We've got these amazing 3 title fights right next. Featherweight, Alexander Volkanovski, Alexander the Great versus Max Holloway.
That's another. I mean, just
crazy fights.
I mean, these fights back to back to back to back, bro. It's gonna be an exciting night.
To back. Man.
I really, I'm really interested in, on top of all of these things that we've been talking about, interested in seeing Piotr Jan go up against Jose Aldo. That's another thing that people have been really, really talking about, like how, more of a, and he's not in any way, shape, or form a young or inexperienced fighter. He's definitely have a lot of fights under his belt, especially amateur wise, but. Piotr Jan, in terms of just strictly UFC fights, he's going up against a veteran.
He's 6-0, something like that in the UFC right now.
Against a veteran such as Jose Aldo, a person that's held the belt already, that's been in the spotlight, that has proven how dominant of a fighter he is, and something that he really wants to do. I was looking at the UFC we were talking about earlier, the UFC Embedded, kind of 45-minute kind of vlog-styled documentary talking about and covering all the main card fighters and their stories up to this point. Jose has something to prove.
Yep.
coming off the Conor McGregor loss and coming off the
It's just the featherweight division. He's sort of just been. He lost to Volkanovski, Holloway a couple times. He's just it's just a different division. So what Jose Aldo thinks, and apparently he always thought that the bantamweight division was his real division. And I mean, for me, I was a little afraid because as featherweight, he seemed like he was a big featherweight. He was having a hard time cutting weight as a featherweight, and he just seemed like he was big. So then when it was announced that he was cutting down to bantamweight, I was like, what's he gonna cut? He's got no fat to lose. So pretty much what we're seeing is he definitely cut down a bit of muscle. That's all he had to only cut down muscle. And in his but what we're seeing is that he's a good fighter. In his first fight in the bantamweight division, he came out in the first round. He was a little slow. It seemed like it was a feeling out process, but he won that fight. So now there's a title fight. But something that I really want to start out with, and we can just work our way up, is let's start out with the women's flyweight division. Something that's a little known. I feel a lot of people know Paige Van Zandt. She's beautiful woman. She's got a great style. Versus Amanda Ribas, right? This is a really interesting fight because.
Tell me what you think.
I mean, if you're a fan going in, you probably heard the name Paige Van Zandt. She's been in Dancing with the Stars. She's a huge star. She's got a huge draw with her. The thing is that she's a decent fighter, right? Like she could definitely kick my ass, but against the elite, like what we've got right above that, Rose Namajunas versus Jessica Andrade. I mean, Paige Van Zandt fought Rose. She pretty much got destroyed. She fought the Karate Hottie. Pretty much got destroyed. She's fought some top people, but it just shows that her skill there, isn't really comparable in comparison to the top of the tops. Now, what we're seeing is that Amanda Ribas is a bad bitch, right? She is kicking some ass. She's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. She's got crisp striking. She's a bad girl. So I don't know what the plan is with Paige Van Zandt. Paige Van Zandt's a star, no doubt about it. She's got a huge fan base. She was on the Logan Paul podcast. So she's big with the kids. She's big with the boys. And she's got a huge fan base. Which is what makes her a huge attraction. She's got great dancing, right? She's cute. The thing is that once again, as a pure MMA fighter, I just don't see her in the same level as the elite. And
how do you think she'll match up against Amanda Ribas? And what do you think the game plan is going to be going up into that?
So Paige Van Zandt, she's a good striker, right? I would say that I think her striking is one of her best advantages. She had in a couple of her other fights, she had like this fake out head kick knockout. So she's got good striking. I'm thinking that it's going to be a stand-up fight. Amanda Ribas has, once again, a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So I don't know. I mean, Paige Van Zandt, she's got the game, but she's just not as crisp.
Does she need to stay on her feet?
I think what she should do is I just don't. The thing is that I don't see how she wins. Which is. She's still a good fighter, and of course, there's always a puncher's chance. This is the UFC, but Amanda Ribas is just so crisp everywhere. I see Amanda Ribas dominating wherever it goes, whether it be on the feet or whether it be on the grounds. If I was Paige Van Zandt, I would probably want to stick and move, throw out a jab. She's got some great leg kicks.
Try her chances.
Yeah, I mean, try her chances. I mean, she could go to war, right? So something that she could do definitely is once you just start slugging it with somebody, technique doesn't matter. Y'all are just slugging it, and you just
whoever
increase
drops first.
Exactly,
the one that drops first.
You increase the percentage of puncher's chance. So like, she could just go in, and we could definitely see a war. And that might be Paige Van Zandt's move. Something else she could do is she could jab and move, but I don't know if that's the great best game plan because Amanda Ribas, her striking is just so crisp. All in all, Paige Van Zandt, she's a good fighter. She's got a lot of talent. She's just not elite. And Amanda Ribas is being built as an elite fighter. She has the potential of an elite fighter. I mean, we can just see from their records. Amanda Ribas is 9-1, and Paige Van Zandt is 8-4. Right, so like Paige Van Zandt has like a 50% success rate, 50% failure rate. Amanda Ribas pretty much has a 90% success rate. So like we're just counting numbers here, right? But it just what I feel like this fight is that Paige Van Zandt has had a good career with the UFC, but now it seems like they're just throwing her in the lion's den. So this might be, we might just see that this is Paige Van Zandt's last fight.
But she might, she might find herself in all of this, in the midst of all this chaos. She might, if she comes out with a W, you have to say her name, you know what I mean?
She's
you
a
have
contender.
to. So, that I feel like might give her an extra bit of confidence to come out with the W and to really prove herself against, like you said, such a game-bred.
Just a game woman. She's just Amanda Ribas is she's a bad girl.
And speaking of women, I kind of wanted to speak of this, you know what I mean?
Right before we say that, I just want to mention this. Which I do, let's just do picks. I think that Amanda Ribas is going to win this fight. This is just my opinion. And that's what I'm thinking. But it's not the worst thing for Paige Van Zandt to lose this fight because she's got so many other opportunities. If she loses this fight and retires from the UFC, she can get a different contract with Bellator. She can do commentating. She's got so many different options to make money. Yeah. I mean, she said it herself. She made more money with Dancing the Stars than any contract that she ever had with the UFC. So Paige Van Zandt has options. And no matter what she does, she's going to be successful because she brings a fan base with her. Yeah. So this isn't a win-lose scenario because nobody really loses. Even if Amanda Ribas wins, Paige Van Zandt still wins because she's drawing in the money. She has so many different pipelines to make money with.
And that's that's a credibility just to say that you were in the same ring and fought such a talented and such a wonderful fighter such as Amanda.
A bunch of wonderful fighters.
Jessamine,
she fought Rose. She fought Michelle Watterson. She was game. She's game to fight, and that's what we're seeing. She's a tough cookie.
Well, speaking of Rose, I want to kind of get to that.
Yeah, we'll get right into that.
I mean, wow, is this number 2? Yeah, this is number 2.
This is the second fight.
This is the second fight between Jessica and Rose, and wow. I mean, I just kind of exploring and going down the rabbit hole in terms of looking at both of these fighters. They both have a lot to prove, right? Rose specifically because she needs to prove to everyone, and not only to everyone but herself, that she can fight an elite opponent and win, such as Jessica, Jessica Andrade. And so, I mean, it's a crucial moment for the fighter, right?
For both of them,
it's your time as a fighter to really prove to yourself, okay, we had one go, I lost the first go, this is the second go, let me prove to everyone that I can do this thing, right? That gives a fighter a huge amount of confidence to go into the next bout. So Rose has a lot to prove. On the other hand, Jessica, if she wins this one, no one can ever say that Rose...
You can't doubt her.
Right, exactly. Right. You can never doubt her, man. Yeah. And this will probably... After this fight, they will give him an opportunity and a chance to.
I think this fight is the next contender for Zhang Weili. This is a crazy fight. So what we're seeing is that both of these women were previous champions, right? Rose Namajunas, she knocked out Joanna Jędrzejczyk in their first fight. I think it was in the first round. And in the second fight, she beat Joanna Jędrzejczyk with her own style, right? It's stand-up. Joanna Jędrzejczyk's amazing Muay Thai fighter, just like a previous champion, extremely elite level, just stand-up fighter. And Rose Namajunas, pretty much, she beat her at her own game. Mm-hmm. With Jessica Andrade is just a beast, right? She's like, I mean, she's just a beast of a woman. Like you just saw that with her first fight against Rose. I mean, she picked her up like she was just like
she ragdolled her.
She picked her exactly.
Dropped her on her head.
She picked her up like she was like a 15-pound weight.
First of all, let me say that was probably one of the scariest things I've ever seen. You could paralyze a person.
That was a scary knockout. That was a scary knockout.
Her neck just went. It was like a 90-degree angle.
Listen, a punch is one thing, right? You've got a bunch of leverage with a punch, no matter what it is. You can throw like a whatever it is. You've got a bunch of leverage. But what you're doing with this throw is that she lifted her up pretty much above her head, right? And she not only did she have the power of her entire upper body to slam her down, she also worked with gravity and just slammed her on the canvas. Yeah, that was a scary moment.
Yeah,
I think you could hear the crowd gasp. They're just like, right? It was just silent because that was a scary moment. Now what we have to talk about with this is that Rose Namajunas, she didn't seem like she was her full self after that fight. And what we see after in the pre-fight interview, I think John Anik came up to her, or somebody came up to her, and he asked her, he was like, so what do you think about the fight? And Rose Namajunas said, it's a relief. Right? So what does that mean? The belt, just being a champion, was so much pressure on her shoulders that it just seemed like she was, and what she said in interviews is that she came into this fight like it was a fight. She wasn't really dedicated to the fight. She just fought because that was her job. Yeah. Right? And what you see when fighters are just like, they start to lose passion for the sport, they get distracted. There's different distractions. That's what happened with Rose, apparently. I don't know the details, but apparently she had a lot of other distractions outside of the ring. She wasn't 100% focused on training, and she was still convincingly winning this fight. Yeah. So what I'm really interested in is now she's coming back. She's ready to fight. She put 100% training into this fight. She went back. She moved from where she originally fights, her original fight camp, and she moved back to her to her hometown.
I think it was from Minneapolis or Colorado, right?
Something like that. Yeah. But she moved back to her roots. And she's getting it done. No distractions, and she's training. Now you can never count out Jessica Andrade. No. Right? She's a powerhouse.
She is. I mean, again, going back to the way that she, KO'd Rose, that previous fight. I mean, that speaks, volumes. The fact that you can, like we just said, pick an opponent up and just completely drop them on their head, and that's that. Walk away and grab the title while you're at it. Yep. What a badass moment, right? So she has a lot of momentum coming into this, a lot of confidence, right? And Rose, on the other hand, wants to regain that confidence. So it will be I was gonna say a cat fight, but no, a dog fight. And these two have a lot on the line. And it will be very interesting to see how they stack up against each other.
Yeah, I mean, so game plans for the two, right? So if Rose was the way that I see Rose winning is that I don't see that she needs to change up much from her last strategy. Like, she had a really great game plan. She just didn't seem as focused. She was winning the fight until that brutal KO. Mm-hmm. What she's just got to practice on is just like takedown defense, just to make sure. Like, she probably has to practice a little bit of things because if she gets picked up, make sure that she lands right. I think that what she really needs to practice on is takedown defense, which she already knows. Yep. But the way that she wins this fight is how she was winning before. Just stick and move. You don't want to get in a war with Jessica Andrade because just
find your pocket. Find your pocket. Exploit it. Punch around. Like you said, stick and poke it.
I mean, I don't know about find your pocket because you don't want to stay in the pocket with Jessica Andrade because that means you're staying close. That's an in-fight. You don't want that. What you want is you want to stick and move. You want to jab. What you were seeing with in the previous fight was Rose Namajunas was doing was she was skipping around, right? She wasn't like she was a moving target. She wasn't staying still for Jessica Andrade to come in. And what you saw was Jessica Andrade was getting frustrated, right? She was trying to come in. She was trying to beat her fucking face in. She was throwing these overhand hooks and windmill punches, and Rose just wasn't there for them. Jessica Andrade was whiffing on those punches. She was hitting and she was missing. She was hitting complete air because Rose wasn't never standing in front of her. She was choosing her angles. She was like it was like fighting like a bunny, like a rabbit or something. Just it kept moving. They kept moving, and Jessica Andrade just couldn't hit her. What she had to do was she had to take her all the way to the fence of the octagon so that to trap Rose, and that's what I see as Jessica Andrade's strategy. One, she can is to try to tire Rose out. Jessica Andrade is a tough cookie. Like it seems like she got pieced up a couple times, but she didn't go down. Well, I mean she got pieced up a couple times, but she was still there. Yeah. That's how I see her strategy going.
Who do you have winning on this one?
So I see Rose winning. Rose was winning the last fight. She just needed to tweak up a couple things, and I think that her speed and her just precise, her precise striking will edge this one out for her. Rose says that she wants to get a KO. What she said in an interview was winning this fight means that she's still the champion. And I think that means a lot. Winning this fight will bring a lot would mean a lot for the confidence of Rose Namajunas, and winning this fight for Jessica Andrade would mean that there's no doubters, right? And everybody thinks that was a lucky takedown. There's no lucky takedowns. I don't think there's any lucky anything in the UFC. All these fighters have been fighting and practicing these moves, that punch, that kick for just thousands of times. There's no lucky anything. These are
something that I saw. Sorry for cutting you off. Something that I saw was Jessica practicing the same moves, the pickups and drops, getting a hold of her opponent, right? Getting a hold of her opponent, just completely putting her up in the air and throwing her down, right? And so, if what do they say? Just right until the wheels fall off, right? If it's not broken, don't fix it, So I also have Rose winning this one. And just to go back a little bit, because I don't think I gave my hot take. I think Amanda wins that one too.
Yeah.
But moving on to this bantamweight title bout. I mean, good God. Piotr Jan, coming at it with Jose Aldo. I think that this will be probably my really, really,
this is his favorite fight.
You know what I mean?
The favorite fight of the card.
Gosh, I mean, both fighters have so much to prove. Like we said, kind of discussed a little bit before. Just the fact that Piotr is coming. I'm Russian, right. And I have a lot of pride for my Russian fighters. So I have there's a little bias there, right? But he has so much to prove, man. So much to prove, and he's younger. I think he's a little bit faster. He's a little bit sharper, but I never would count Jose Aldo out. I mean, what do you got on this one?
I mean, so Piotr Jan, he's got a 6-fight winning streak in the UFC. The only fight that I really saw him have trouble with was his Jimmy Rivera fight. But other than that, it just seems like everybody they put against him, they're just not enough. It's like anybody you put against this guy in the boxing community, Vasily Lomachenko. Like every time you put somebody against him, he just outclasses them. I remember Piotr Jan, his fight against Uriah Faber, he kept doing this. He kept doing like this to Uriah Faber. Like, is that it? That's all you got? Come on, bro. Come on, California kid. You're a legend, and that's all you got? Are you serious?
Yeah.
So, Piotr Jan, it seems like he needs to find a challenge. Yeah. And Jose Aldo is definitely going to give him a challenge. Like, if you don't know, you've heard Jose Aldo's name, whether it be from his infamous KO, but people forget how much of a legend he was. He was a legend in the WEC. He was the featherweight champion in that, and then he was crowned the featherweight champion in the UFC. Jose Aldo's a bad man, right? He's a bad man.
Brazilian bad man.
His striking was amazing. I remember his fight versus Chad Mendes. His second fight was versus Chad Mendes, one of the best wars I've ever seen. Knockdowns on both sides. Yeah. Crazy fight. And he edged that out. He's just got just a different level of striking. Yeah. His kickboxing is fantastic. And Piotr Jan's stand-up is fantastic too. Piotr Jan, he trains out of Tiger Muay Thai up in Thailand. So he's got he's a straight-up savage.
I mean, and he also is coming from a boxing background, right?
Yeah.
So, his stand-up game is just phenomenal, So it'll be very interesting to see how Jose kind of absorbs and takes in everything and changes his strategy because of that,
So a little bit of, we can talk a little background of Piotr Jan. Like I think he's got 200, I don't know if I might be wrong, right? I think it's about 200, 300 amateur fights or in the boxing ring. So he's been boxing since the age of 5. Yeah. His stand-up is fierce. And this man seems like he's got no nerves. His face is just like he's just got like the face of an assassin once he goes into the ring.
Quiet assassin.
It looks like he's staring through you. He looks like he's a wolf on the prowl. That's how I can describe Piotr Jan on a fight. He's just ready to sink his teeth into that deer, into that prey, and that's just him. Because what we see with Piotr Jan is that if you're an amateur and you don't really know what you're looking at with stand-up, Piotr Jan seems like he has a very basic fighting style, because what he does is he puts his hands up, right? Basic boxing. He puts his hands up, uses a bunch of jabs, a bunch of crosses, a bunch of 1-2s, and sometimes he doesn't throw. Sometimes he just stays there. Yeah. Just like, okay, what's going to happen? What's going on?
Yeah.
But what happens is that he's so prolific and he's had so many fights that it's like back in the day with Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva could just stand there, but you wouldn't want to hit him because he's got
The
like
counters.
He's got like 7 or 8 different ways that he can take your fucking head off.
Yeah.
And that's the same vibe you're getting from Piotr Jan. He's standing there and he's chilling there. He's got not a peekaboo defense, but he's got his hands up. And but you don't know how you're going to encounter him. So how I see this fight going, I don't know about you. I see this as a war. Yeah. I see this is a stand-up fight. This is going to be an all-out war, and whoever has the best stand-up wins. What do you think?
Whoever has the best chin wins, honestly.
Yeah,
like both fighters are really craftsmen at what they do.
Yep.
It'll be the first round, as fighters tend to do, is kind of a
Might be a feel-out period.
Yeah, just kind of like, poking around and seeing what's going on, and how how the wind goes by your head, how powerful of a punch the opponent throws, kind of finding their range. And then round 2, I'm predicting that's when the fireworks go off, man.
Yeah,
that's when really the adrenaline hits an all-time high, and these two just start dogfighting, just absolute. Yeah. Just trying to take each other's head off. Both have a lot to prove, like we said, mentioned beforehand, and it'll be I will tune into this one personally, and as I will try to for everything. And
right.
Gosh, man, moving on, dude. Moving on, because we have so many great cards.
We got to choose our picks, though. Like,
who do you
think
go ahead.
Is gonna win, right?
Yeah, I'm just so excited about everything. Go ahead.
I feel you. There's so many different things. I mean, let's just go to like strategy, right? If I was Jose Aldo, before we even choose the picks, I think if I was Jose Aldo, I would really stick. I remember when he fought Uriah Faber, he destroyed his legs. Get back to the leg kicks. I haven't seen Jose Aldo throw those fantastic leg kicks that he's been known about for such a long time. And I don't know why, because they're so damn good. He's one of the best in the UFC at leg kicks.
Yep.
So go back to that lower calf kick. If this is going to be a stand-up fight, which I'm pretty sure, once again, I'm 90% sure this is going to be a stand-up fight. If you piece up and you tear up that lead leg of Piotr Jan, it's going to be a tough time. He's going to have a tough time standing up, and that's where the fight's going to be. That's his advantage.
Finding that, right? Finding that's physics, right?
Yeah.
Finding that momentum with his punches, because he's such a, like we were talking about earlier, such a stand-up fighter,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And Jose Aldo, he's right now, we can say he's pretty much the biggest man in the division. He moved down from featherweight, and right now he's the biggest man in the division. So if he can use his weight as an advantage, he could, if he wanted to, he could do a bit of wrestling to tire Piotr Jan out. He could do that, but just once again, I'll stick to the leg kicks, throw his jabs, fight smart, maybe not stay in the pocket. He definitely can. I'm pretty sure you will see it if he does the stick and move strategy where he pieces up that leg, goes a little bit out, counters, and does stuff like that. You can see him winning.
Who you got?
I personally, I think that just after all the great things I've said about Jose Aldo, we got to get back to Piotr Jan, Siberian-born bad man, right?
Bred by life, bred by the hardships of life.
Yeah.
Had to fight every single day just to get food on the table.
Yep.
I mean, I can tell you that's my pick, and I previously mentioned that I do have a little bias towards Russian fighters, but I mean it's just hard for me to see it any other way.
I mean, just like
young, fast, sharp. We see with Jose, he's a little bit older, but he's smarter. He's very smart. He's been in the ring. He's got a lot
of experience in the UFC.
Right.
So, and what's really neat is Jose Aldo seems like he's older, but he's really only in his early 30s. He's like 31, I think, something like that. I might be wrong, but he's in his early 30s. It's just that we've seen so much time, like a lot of time in the UFC.
Yeah.
But I say that Piotr Jan, he said in an interview, he said that he grew up in a place where he wasn't living, he was surviving. That's what Siberia's life, that harsh, cold environment that breeds monsters, just breeds wolves, just ready to snatch that prey. And Piotr Jan, that's how he fights. He's calm, calculated, cool under pressure, and he just knows when he should throw the right strike, when he should throw that 1-2, when he should throw that overhand hook, whatever it is. He's calculated, and he's also a well-rounded fighter. I see Piotr Jan winning. I think this might be a decision. I don't, if it's a knockout KO, if it's a KO, I mean, I'm not surprised, but I would love to see this as a 5-round fight decision, Piotr Jan.
Okay. Well, moving on now to Gosh, just another really good card.
Co-main event.
Another huge fight. We have
Another
Alexander the Great Volkanovski versus Max Holloway, number 2.
Another number 2. We got 2 amazing rematches. So it's gonna be kind of crazy. So just a little bit of stats.
Kind of looking at the first go around, we saw Alexander Volkanovski. One of the things that he said was he wants to beat his opponents at their own game.
Right.
And something that he really, really did was he went for the legs. Just beat and beat and beat on the leg.
Mm-hmm.
Really bruised Max's legs up, and that's how he won. He won by striking, right? He won by continually just going after that leg. After he got on the leg, he focused on the head, went back to the leg, and what do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, what we see with Max Holloway is he's sort of a momentum fighter. He's sort of like a Nate Diaz or one of these like big cardio fighters. He doesn't have the biggest power. Like Volkanovski has a good amount of power. Let's say I think Joe Rogan says he was 240 pounds. He wasn't 240. He was 214. But he big man. But what we can see again is Max Holloway is one of these momentum fighters where his first round he's the slowest, and over time he ramps up. So the first round, he's looking at the opponent. He throws a couple jabs, and he's reading the opponent, and he gets his thing going. He revs that engine up, and then over time, that engine just keeps on going. He's like a car, but he's a slow start car. But once he gets going, he's just going to piece you up.
Ferrari,
exactly.
So what do we? Something that I was very interested in. How is Max going to change his game? Right? How is Max going to adapt? Because after the fight, Max was very adamant about saying he thought that he won the fight. He thought that he didn't take any significant blows. And he said, I think he said something about going to a party afterwards, and being fine. So
dancing or something.
Looking at number 2, how is Max? I think he calls himself on YouTube nowadays Hiker Holloway. Gonna go up against him, and how is he gonna change his strategy? I think first of all he's gonna guard that leg a little bit more. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely check those kicks. Max said in a couple interviews that those kicks didn't hurt him. Maybe they didn't, but for Volkanovski's he's been practicing those kicks. Him and his coach down in Australia. His coach put up like this pole that was taped up, and he's just been hammering those leg kicks, just fucking. And Volkanovski has tree trunk legs, right?
That guy's big.
This man's thick. Like his background is first he was a wrestler, so that he got big legs then, and then he was a rugby star in his rugby league, and he was a big man. He was 214 pounds and cutting weight to 145, 214 to 145. Once again, huge, right? That's gigantic. That's a gigantic.
He does have a bigger reach. I'm looking at the stats here, and Alex here has a what is that, a 2-inch advantage over Holloway.
So, but what we see is, yes, that's true. The big thing is that when we're talking about stats, is that Alexander Volkanovski, which we're talking about crazy stats again, right? So he's a monster of a man, but he's 5'6". He used to weigh 214 pounds. Now he weighs 140 pounds. It's crazy as a man that's 5'6". Max Holloway's 5'11". What we see now is that since Max Holloway is a good amount taller than Volkanovski, he's about 5 inches taller than him. So yes, Volkanovski has more reach. It's just that he's a shorter man. So for example, Max Holloway, all he needs to do to negate that reach is to just maybe to heighten his or to make his stance a little wider, and he still has more reach because Max Holloway can just lean over Volkanovski and sort of negate that reach advantage. So what we see is when there's a huge height advantage, reach, even if the shorter man might have a longer reach, those are stats, but they might not always be true. I guess let's go back to the strategy of Max Holloway. Yeah. Once again, check those kicks, man. Just check those kicks, because that second round, it seemed like his legs were getting torn up. Matt Holloway says different, but it's the judges that are gonna end up pointing that, and they saw Holloway was getting disrupted by those kicks, and even if those kicks weren't really hurting Max the way that they said that it looks like they were, it was disrupting his rhythm.
Yeah.
And that's really important because Max Holloway's rhythm is everything. Just like what we said before, like he's revving his engine up that first, second round, and then those championship rounds, the fourth and the fifth, is when he's really piecing up his opponent.
Right.
But Volkanovski never let him get going, right? He kept on disrupting his rhythm. He was winning on the exchanges, and those leg kicks just didn't let him let Volkanovski stamp up his feet and just go forward like he usually does.
Well, who do you have? Who do you have winning this one?
So,
having said all that,
so that's a tough one. I'm always a fan of Holloway. I'm a big fan of Holloway. I think if Holloway can check those kicks and can get the job done and just maintain his game, he can do good. Once again, Volkanovski's a big man, but my pick is Holloway. Who do you think?
I love Max. I think this is the only pick that I kind of have a to differ with you. I think Alex takes this one. I think Alex continues to exploit those legs. I think Alex, it's hard to say. It's hard to call a KO, but I think Max might, and that's something that he said. He said this time around he doesn't want any doubters. He wants to put Max away before that bell goes off, and I think Alex finds a way. I don't know whether it be to again disrupt those legs and then find a little pocket where he can just completely find a power swing or not. But I think if he doesn't, he wins.
I think either way, it's going to be decision whether Volkanovski wins or Holloway wins. I don't see Volkanovski knocking out Holloway, even though he's got huge power. I just don't see it. Holloway's got cardio for days. He's always game to fight. I remember in one of his fights, he literally pointed at the middle of the octagon. 20 seconds left of the fifth round. He's like, "Let's fucking brawl," and he did it. And he was slugging it. He was a champ. He's got the mentality of a champion. But I'm on the Blessed Express. Choo choo. I'm here for it. I love Max Holloway's attitude towards the game. He's a great champ. Personally, I give it to Max. But
throw up a statue in Hawaii somewhere, please. I mean, that guy,
they better.
He deserves.
He's one of the best athletes ever there.
Well, to kind of round out this podcast, let's talk about the fight, right? The main event, man. Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal.
Now, once again, we got to say, unfortunately, Gilbert Burns, he was, if you don't know, he was supposed to be against on the main event against Kamaru Usman, and they were teammates. This would have been a great build up, but unfortunately, Gilbert Burns has tested positive for COVID and for the coronavirus, and it's unfortunate. That would have been a great fight, but literally a day or a couple hours after that, just street Jesus.
He came to the rescue.
Game bred.
He saved the game.
He was just ready. He just came through, and he's on 6 days notice. 6 days notice, right?
That's brave, man.
That's
something that people were talking about before the fight. Was they were kind of saying that Jorge kind of danced around this one. He danced around this one, and he. I don't think you could say that now anymore.
Well, I mean, what they were saying is like, if you don't know, Jorge Masvidal had him and John Jones and a couple other fighters, but the big ones, him and John Jones, we're fighting for fighter pay. He wanted to be paid what he thought that he was. Yeah. He considers himself like a big payday, which he is. Yeah. And he wanted more money for it. He's a star. And apparently they got negotiations done. Dana offered him what he needed to offer him, and
close to.
According to Jorge. According to Jorge, and he's satisfied. So it looks like he's got what he wanted, and he's ready to brawl. Right. So Dana just gave him a call. That's what they're saying in the interview with Jorge Masvidal and Ariel Helwani. Dana White gave him a call, and he was satisfied.
Something that I am a little worried about is that on short notice fights, we see a lot of the time that guys get burnt out,
Yep.
I think I don't know. It's kind of this is a little weird one, right? Like the fact that Jorge took that fight, but I don't know. He seemed fit. He seemed in all of his interviews, he seemed very fit, very lean, ready to go at any and all times, and it almost felt like he was ready for this one,
So it all goes to sorry to interrupt. It all goes to his name, right? Yeah. His nickname, Gamebred. He's always ready to fight. In the streets of Miami, back in the Kimbo Slice days, in one of his like biggest fights, I don't remember the name of the guy he was fighting, but in one of his biggest fights, he was at like a drive-thru in McDonald's, and I think Kimbo or one of his people gave him a call and he was like, "Yo, you trying to fight?" And Jorge was like, "Yeah, I'm down, bro. What you fucking kidding me? Of course I'm down. That's game bread, right?" So that's Jorge Masvidal. He's always game. Now, once again, like this guy. He's game to fight, and he's always there. Now with Kamaru Usman, the Nigerian nightmare himself, he's a cardio machine. So that's where we see a little trouble with Kamaru Usman and Jorge Masvidal. Jorge Masvidal coming in 6 days notice. He didn't have a full training camp, right? He did now. What we're seeing with Poirier, he fights out of American Top Team. That Jorge Masvidal has been training. He just hasn't been training as if like he just hasn't had a full on fight camp, right? But he has been training, and his big focus has been on Kamaru Usman because that was the fight that he was always going to be gunning for. So he always had, when he was training, he always had Kamaru Usman in mind. He just didn't have a full fight camp. What I see trouble with is that once the cardio is the big issue. Kamaru Usman had a full training camp. He was training out there with Justin Gaethje and his trainer, and he was getting after it. And the big issue that we see here is the cardio. But once again, game bred, just like his name states.
I don't know, man. It seems like every time we write off, or others have written off Jorge, he comes through and he finds a way.
Yeah.
And Street Jesus is exactly the right name for that, man. He always he's such an experienced fighter.
He blesses your soul.
Yeah,
sir.
he's such an experienced fighter that he finds a way
fights.
Every time.
He's got the most fights. Now, what we see is, once again, let's like label the advantages of each fighter, right?
Yeah, of course.
So Kamaru Usman, big man. He's really big for his division, 170-pound welterweight division, and he's bigger than Jorge Masvidal. Yep. So he's, once again, cardio machine and amazing wrestling. Yep. He will maul you. Like that's, so we didn't see that.
And what a specimen, right?
What a specimen. Just a physical, just amazing guy. Yeah. But his power's all right, but it's not that great. He did like break Kobe Covington's jaw, but we saw that was an overtime effort. Jorge Masvidal, his striking is so amazing. I think that he'll catch you. He's arguably, I think he's the best pure boxer in the UFC.
I agree
personally. And what we see with Jorge Masvidal, he's kind of a little bit like Piotr Jan, where if you're like just tuning in and you're like an amateur and you just look at his fights, he seems like his fighting style's a little basic. You don't see anything advanced, but what you don't see, once again, the devil's in the details, and that's what Jorge Masvidal's all about. Yep. Once again, Kamaru Usman's advantages: amazing cardio and amazing takedowns and amazing wrestling. What we don't know, something that's might be little known about Jorge Masvidal, he's got a 78% takedown defense.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Poirier, his fighting partner, who's arguably like almost second to none, except for Khabib in the lightweight division, has got like a 60% or 59% takedown defense. 78% takedown defense is phenomenal, especially against Kamaru Usman. I mean, over there in American Top Team, Jorge Masvidal trains against arguably one of the best, on paper, the best wrestlers in the UFC, Yoel Romero, the cat-like animal.
Don't even get me started on him.
Big man, and I mean, this is in the middleweight. So this is middleweight. So Jorge Masvidal wrestles middleweights, wrestles elite wrestling people in the middleweight division that are bigger than Kamaru Usman.
He's a product of his environment.
He definitely is. American Top Team's got fantastic fighters. He also apparently was wrestling with a bunch of Olympic level wrestlers. So Jorge Masvidal is. It might seem like he's not really ready, and maybe he's not. Maybe his cardio isn't up to where it should be. And I think that in some interviews he said, "Am I full fight camp like I was against Nate Diaz? No, but I'm ready to kick his ass." That's what he said. What do you think, man?
Listen. I think personally, if we're discussing who we got for this fight, I think that Kamaru takes this one.
Right.
I think he keeps his belt.
Yep.
But God, if there was anyone to break that train of thought and surprise me completely, Jorge would be the perfect person to do so.
Yeah. I think And this is going a little offbeat. I think Jorge Masvidal is definitely like an underdog. Usman's definitely a betting favorite, and of course you have to see why. He's just a dominator.
Yeah.
But Jorge Masvidal with that 78% takedown defense, if he can keep him off, if he can keep Kamaru Usman off, and he'll definitely piece up Kamaru Usman. He's got that oblique kick. Piece him up, knock that gas out, and just slow him down like that. If Masvidal does that, I see personally. I'm gonna pick Masvidal. I'm a huge Street Jesus fan. He's one of my favorite fighters.
I'm not angry at that.
Yeah. And that's my pick. Just keep up those oblique kicks. Keep it striking. Make sure that you're standing up. And if Masvidal can keep the fight standing up, then he wins. If Usman can out wrestle him, then Usman wins. So it's really. With Usman, it's going to be a game of attrition. With Jorge Masvidal, it's going to be blink and lights out. So if Jorge Masvidal can work his strategy like that really well, I see him winning. Once again, that takedown defense. This is why I give it to him. 78%. That's a big number. So it's going to be
not matched.
It's going to be an amazing card, man.
Well, having said that, and to round this podcast up, I kind of want to take this time to once again give you guys the details. Saturday, July 11th, Fight Island, Abu Dhabi. They got their own island for this thing.
It's beautiful. It's
everyone's
beautiful.
being tested as we speak.
Right on the beach.
Or maybe not.
We'll see.
Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
But something that I would like to say is thank you guys so much. We have 2 cameras now, so hello. And hello. So the podcast is progressing. A lot of things in the works. We're going to be working on a new studio soon. So all of this other extra stuff won't be around us. But we're working on it.
Yeah.
Working on everything. Thank you guys so much. Big love and shout out to all of the viewers and listeners for taking time out of their day to kind of listen to us. It should be a very, very interesting and very, very awesome fight night this Saturday. And we'll see you. Well, I guess we'll see you after Fight Islands, and we'll be right back in the same space talking about all the stuff that we saw after the card.
Exactly. So once again, it's been amazing, and this is going to be a phenomenal experience with all of you guys. And see you on the next episode of Knockout News. Thank you.
Thank you.